The escape pod hurtled through the violet atmosphere, its heat shield glowing crimson against the alien sky. Inside, Commander Eliza Mercer gripped the manual controls, her knuckles white with effort. The research vessel Hermes was gone, torn apart by gravitational forces that the ship's scientists had grossly miscalculated. Mayday, Mayday. This is Commander Eliza Mercer of the Hermes expedition. Escape pod trajectory unstable. Impact imminent on uncharted exoplanet. She spoke calmly into the recorder, knowing the message wouldn't reach Earth for decades. If anyone finds this, tell them I tried. The impact came with a sickening crunch of metal. Pain lanced through Eliza's body before darkness claimed her. She awoke to a sensation unlike anything she'd ever experienced, cool, silken pressure encircling her wrists and ankles, lifting her from the wreckage. Through blurred vision, Eliza saw them, iridescent tendrils, glowing with an internal blue-violet light, extending from the shadows beyond the shattered viewport. Her training dictated resistance. Every human instinct screamed danger. But as the tendrils gently extracted her from the crushed pod, something deeper than instinct stirred within her, a scientist's curiosity, perhaps, or something more primal. The tendrils brought her face to face with their source. In the alien twilight stood a humanoid figure, tall and lithe, with skin that shimmered like opal. Where a human would have hair, countless luminous tendrils flowed and undulated, seeming to taste the air. Its eyes, 3 of them, regarded Eliza with unmistakable intelligence. I should be terrified, Eliza whispered, blood trickling from a cut on her forehead. Why am I not terrified? The creature's head tilted, tendrils reaching toward her face. Eliza held perfectly still as one delicate strand brushed the blood from her skin. Where it touched, a pleasant warmth spread, and she felt the pain subside. You're healing me, she murmured in wonder. The tendril moved to her lips, as if asking for silence. Then more tendrils encircled her waist, shoulders, and thighs, not painfully, but firmly. Eliza understood, she was being taken. She could have struggled. Her survival knife remained strapped to her thigh, and the creature, though taller, seemed delicate. But as the tendrils lifted her from the ground, Eliza made a decision that would change everything. She relaxed into their embrace. The creature paused, its 3 eyes blinking in sequence. It had expected fear, resistance, the natural response of prey. This willing surrender was unexpected. I'm Eliza, she said, placing her hand over one of the tendrils that held her. I don't know if you understand, but I'm not going to fight you. A sound emerged from the creature, like crystal chimes in a gentle breeze. More tendrils reached for Eliza, these moving with different intent. They caressed her face with a touch so light it might have been imagination, then brushed against her lips with unmistakable curiosity. Eliza's breath caught. The contact sent a cascade of sensations through her body, not just physical, but emotional, wonder, curiosity, and something like relief. You're alone here, Eliza realized aloud. You've been alone for a very long time. The creature, Nyx, she would later learn to call her, drew Eliza closer, their faces inches apart. One tendril wrapped around Eliza's wrist, guiding her hand to touch the creature's face. The skin felt like warm silk beneath her fingers. As the alien carried her away from the crash site, into a forest of towering purple vegetation, Eliza knew she had made the right choice. Whatever awaited her would be extraordinary, and for the first time since the Hermes had begun its ill-fated mission, she felt the thrill of true discovery. Nyx's dwelling was a crystalline structure nestled within the hollow of an ancient purple tree. Bioluminescent flora illuminated the interior with soft, shifting light. Eliza observed everything with fascinated eyes as Nyx's tendrils finally lowered her onto a surface resembling a bed, crafted from woven fibers that yielded gently to her weight. This is incredible, Eliza whispered, touching the material. Your home is beautiful. Nyx stood watching her, tendrils swaying with a rhythm that seemed to match Eliza's breathing. Slowly, the alien approached and extended a single glowing tendril toward Eliza's temple. Understanding the request, Eliza nodded. Yes, I want to understand you. The tendril made contact, and Eliza gasped. Images flooded her mind, not in human language, but in sensations and colors. Nyx was female, in her way. She was a sentinel, the last conscious guardian of something precious. And she had been alone for centuries. You're the last of your kind, Eliza breathed, tears forming in her eyes. Nyx's tendrils rippled with blue light. Her 3 eyes blinked in sequence, and she placed her palm, four-fingered and delicate, against Eliza's cheek. I wish I could share my thoughts with you the same way, Eliza said. She reached up, touching one of the tendrils. It coiled gently around her fingers, pulsing warmly. Emboldened, Eliza guided the tendril to her own temple. Try again. I'll open my mind to you. This time, when the connection formed, Eliza concentrated on projecting her memories, Earth's oceans, forests, cities. Her childhood in New Mumbai. The stars seen from the observation deck of the Hermes. The faces of colleagues now lost. Nyx trembled, her tendrils flaring with brilliant light. She pulled back, overwhelmed, then slowly extended all her tendrils toward Eliza in a gentle, encompassing embrace. You understand loneliness too, Eliza realized, as emotions that weren't her own echoed in her mind. The sensation was intoxicating, a closeness beyond anything she'd experienced with another human. As night fell on the alien world, they sat together, learning to communicate through this newfound connection. Nyx created patterns of light in her tendrils, which Eliza began to recognize as a visual language. Each time Eliza understood a new concept, Nyx's tendrils would brush against her skin in what felt like approval. I could spend years studying you, Eliza said, reaching out to touch the alien's face. The contact sent a pleasant shiver through them both. Nyx responded by wrapping a tendril around Eliza's wrist, guiding her hand to the base of her tendrils, where they joined with her scalp. Eliza's fingers gently explored the area, causing Nyx to emit a harmonic sound that vibrated through the dwelling. That's sensitive for you, Eliza observed, fascinated. She continued the gentle exploration, watching as the tendrils responded to her touch, curling and extending with obvious pleasure. Nyx moved closer, her face inches from Eliza's. 3 eyes studied her with intensity before closing in sequence. Then, with infinite gentleness, Nyx pressed her forehead against Eliza's. The connection that formed was deeper than before, not just thoughts and memories, but emotions, sensations, desires. Eliza felt herself falling into Nyx's consciousness, even as Nyx experienced the human's perception. When they separated, both were breathing rapidly. Eliza's heart pounded as she realized what had just happened, something sacred, intimate. A sharing that transcended physical boundaries. I've never felt anything like that, she whispered, her fingers intertwining with the tendrils that reached for her. Not with anyone. As the alien world's 3 moons rose outside, casting prismatic light through the crystalline walls, Eliza felt the isolation of her crash landing transform into something unexpected, a connection more profound than any she'd known on Earth. Nyx's tendrils encircled her waist, pulling her closer with gentle insistence. The alien skin glowed with patterns that Eliza now recognized as expressions of desire and curiosity. Whatever was happening between them was unprecedented for both species. And as Eliza yielded to that gentle embrace, allowing the tendrils to lift her into a floating cocoon of light and sensation, she knew that her willing surrender had been the first step towards something extraordinary. Dawn broke on the alien world, bathing Nyx's crystalline dwelling in prismatic light. Eliza woke with tendrils still gently wrapped around her body, pulsing with a soft blue glow that seemed to match her heartbeat. Nyx was watching her with all 3 eyes, the middle one blinking slowly in what Eliza had come to recognize as contentment. Good morning, Eliza murmured, reaching up to touch the tendrils that framed Nyx's face. Or whatever your people call the beginning of a new day. Nyx's response came as a cascade of images in Eliza's mind, the concept translated roughly to renewal cycle. The tendrils around Eliza's body tightened slightly, then relaxed, a gesture she now understood was affectionate. I want to know more about you, Eliza said. Your world, your people. Will you show me? Nyx rose, her form graceful and fluid as the tendrils lifted her from their shared resting place. She extended her hand to Eliza, who took it without hesitation. Together they left the dwelling, stepping into a landscape that still took Eliza's breath away, towering vegetation in shades of violet and indigo, floating spores that glimmered like diamonds in the pink-hued sunlight. They walked for an hour, Nyx occasionally pausing to allow her tendrils to interact with the environment in ways Eliza couldn't fully comprehend. Finally, they reached a vast circular clearing dominated by what appeared to be ruins, crystalline structures similar to Nyx's dwelling, but massive in scale and partially reclaimed by the planet's vegetation. This was your city, Eliza whispered, understanding dawning as Nyx shared fragmented images of a thriving civilization. Nyx led her to a central structure, relatively intact compared to the others. Inside, suspended in a gelatinous medium, were hundreds of translucent spheres, each containing what appeared to be a sleeping form similar to Nyx. They're not dead, Eliza realized, feeling Nyx's emotions. They're waiting? Hibernating? The story unfolded in her mind through Nyx's memories, a cataclysm, a desperate plan for survival, a lottery to determine who would remain conscious as guardian while the others slept until the world healed. Nyx had been chosen centuries ago. Alone, watching, waiting. You've been so lonely, Eliza said, tears welling in her eyes. She turned to Nyx, placing both hands on the alien's face. Thank you for trusting me with this. Nyx's response was to envelop Eliza in her tendrils, creating a cocoon of sensation that conveyed gratitude, relief, and something deeper, a longing finally addressed. Within that embrace, the physical and emotional became indistinguishable. Eliza felt every cell in her body responding to the tendrils that now caressed her with deliberate intent. I want to understand all of you, Eliza whispered, her scientific curiosity merging with a more primal desire. She reached for the base of Nyx's tendrils, remembering the reaction from the night before. This time, her touch was more confident, exploring the sensitive area where the tendrils joined with Nyx's body. The alien shuddered, her skin illuminating with patterns of pleasure that Eliza was learning to read. In response, Nyx's tendrils sought out the places where Eliza was most sensitive, the nape of her neck, the inside of her wrists, the hollow of her throat. Each touch sent cascades of sensation through Eliza's body, heightened by the emotional connection they now shared. This is beyond physical, Eliza gasped as tendrils slipped beneath her torn flight suit, gliding across bare skin with exquisite gentleness. I can feel what you feel. And it was true, through their connection, Eliza experienced the echo of Nyx's pleasure, just as Nyx felt hers. When their lips finally met, Nyx's softer, cooler, but unmistakably seeking, the sensation multiplied exponentially, a feedback loop of shared desire. They sank to the floor of the ancient structure, surrounded by the dormant essence of Nyx's people. There, amidst the legacy of a civilization in waiting, they discovered new dimensions of connection, Eliza teaching Nyx about human intimacy, while Nyx showed her pleasures that transcended physical form, tendrils creating patterns of light and sensation against Eliza's skin that seemed to reach directly into her consciousness. When they finally separated, both trembling and illuminated from within, Nyx literally, Eliza in spirit, they had crossed a threshold from which neither wished to return. I never imagined, Eliza whispered, cradled in a gentle nest of tendrils, that being lost could lead to being so profoundly found. 3 local moons had cycled through their phases since Eliza's crash. She had adapted to the rhythm of life with Nyx, learning the aliens' visual language, exploring the ruins of the ancient civilization, and deepening their connection through increasingly profound exchanges of memory and sensation. The morning began like many others, wrapped in Nyx's luminous tendrils, sharing thoughts without words. Eliza had almost forgotten the emergency beacon from her escape pod was still broadcasting. The distant roar of engines shattered their tranquility. "No," Eliza gasped, bolting upright. "They found me." Nyx's tendrils pulsed with alarmed crimson as she rose, moving to the dwelling's entrance. Through the crystal walls, they watched a rescue shuttle descend into the clearing near the crash site. "They'll misunderstand," Eliza said, gripping Nyx's hand. "Human first contact protocols are defensive. They'll see you as a threat." Nyx's middle eye fixed on Eliza, projecting a question directly into her mind. "Will you leave?" "I don't know," Eliza admitted, torn between worlds. "I need to speak with them, explain what I've discovered here." They reached the clearing as four figures in environmental suits emerged from the shuttle. Eliza recognized the lead figure's stride even before he removed his helmet, Commander Julian Blackwood, her former second-in-command on the Hermes. "Eliza," he shouted, relief evident in his voice. Then his eyes fixed on Nyx, and his hand moved to his sidearm. "Get back. It's controlling you." "No." Eliza stepped between them. "Stand down, Julian. This is Nyx. She saved me, helped me understand this world." The rescue team exchanged wary glances as Eliza explained Nyx's civilization and their connection. Julian's expression hardened with each word. "You've been traumatized," he said finally. "Possibly brainwashed. We're taking you home for medical evaluation." "I'm perfectly sane," Eliza insisted, feeling Nyx's tendrils brush her back in support. "This is a sentient species with technology we barely understand. Think about what we could learn." "I've seen how it touches you," Julian cut in, disgust evident in his voice. "It's unnatural. The xenobiologists will want to study it, of course. We have containment facilities on the shuttle." Nyx's tendrils flared bright orange, a warning. Eliza felt the aliens' fear and determination flow through their connection. "You will not contain her," Eliza said, her voice taking on a dangerous edge. "She's not a specimen. She's a guardian of her people." Julian signaled to his team. "Prep the sedatives. For both of them." Everything happened at once. Julian lunged for Eliza's arm. Nyx's tendrils whipped forward defensively. The security officer fired a warning shot that scorched the ground at Nyx's feet. "Stop!" Eliza shouted, wrenching free from Julian's grasp. "This ends now." In the tense standoff that followed, Eliza felt herself pulled between worlds, the human expedition that represented her past, and Nyx, who had become her future. "I can't leave her," Eliza realized aloud, moving to stand beside Nyx. The alien's tendrils wrapped protectively around her waist. "Then you're abandoning humanity," Julian said coldly. "For this thing." Eliza felt Nyx tense beside her, tendrils pulsing with hurt. Through their connection, she sensed Nyx's sacrifice forming, a willingness to release Eliza rather than separate her from her kind. "No," Eliza said, reaching up to touch Nyx's face. "I won't let you make that choice for me." Their eyes met in silent communication. Eliza pulled Nyx down into a kiss that needed no translation for the stunned rescue team, passionate, defiant, and unmistakably loving. When they separated, Eliza turned to Julian. "I'm not abandoning humanity. I'm expanding it. Nyx's people have knowledge that could transform our understanding of consciousness itself. But this has to be a mutual exchange, not an extraction." She stepped forward, Commander Mercer once more. "Return to the outpost. Report that I've established peaceful first contact with an advanced civilization. Request a diplomatic team, not a military one." Julian's jaw tightened. "And if I refuse?" "Then you leave without me," Eliza said simply. "And miss the opportunity of a lifetime." As the tension crackled between them, Eliza felt Nyx's tendrils encircle her fingers, squeezing gently. Whatever came next, they would face it together, a union neither had sought, but both now refused to surrender. The diplomatic vessel Artemis hung in orbit above the planet, its sleek form a stark contrast to the organic landscape below. 6 months had passed since Commander Blackwood's reluctant departure and subsequent return with a proper diplomatic team, scientists, linguists, and cultural specialists who approached Nyx's world with the reverence it deserved. On the surface, Eliza stood at the edge of the Crystal City, watching as the awakening process began for the first of Nyx's people. The environmental catastrophe that had forced them into suspended animation had finally abated, thanks in part to terraforming technology shared by the human expedition. "It's really happening," Eliza whispered, feeling Nyx's excitement and apprehension through the neural pathways they now shared permanently. Nyx's response flowed directly into Eliza's mind. "After centuries alone, I fear I've forgotten how to be among my kind." "You haven't forgotten," Eliza assured her, reaching up to touch the base of Nyx's tendrils, a gesture that had become both comfort and intimate connection. "You remembered enough to teach me." Their relationship had developed in ways neither species had anticipated. The neural connection that began as temporary thought-sharing had deepened with each passing day, altering them both on cellular levels. Eliza's body now carried subtle luminescent patterns beneath her skin, not full tendrils like Nyx's, but a network of delicate filaments that glowed with emotion. More profound were the changes to her perception. She could sense the bioelectric fields of living organisms, communicate without words, and experience sensation through a spectrum previously unknown to humans. Nyx, too, had transformed. Her thought patterns had adopted human linear reasoning alongside her species' more holistic consciousness. The tendrils that once moved independently now responded to her will with greater precision, and she had developed the ability to vocalize simple human words. "Eliza," she said now, the sound both foreign and beautiful from her rarely used vocal organs. It was a gift saved for intimate moments, her name spoken aloud rather than projected into thought. Eliza turned to her partner, taking in the majestic being who had so completely changed her existence. "I love you," she replied, the words inadequate for the bond they shared, yet still powerful in their simplicity. The first of the hibernation spheres began to pulse with increasing light. Around them, human scientists monitored the process while maintaining a respectful distance. This moment belonged to Nyx, and by extension, to Eliza. "Are you ready?" Eliza asked. Nyx's 3 eyes blinked in sequence, affirmation. Her tendrils extended toward the sphere, connecting with its crystalline surface. Energy flowed visibly between them, accelerating the awakening. The sphere's outer membrane dissolved, revealing a being similar to Nyx, but with tendrils that shimmered gold rather than blue-violet. The awakened entity's eyes opened slowly, taking in the changed world and the strange alliance that had facilitated their return. The newcomer's gaze fixed on Eliza, then on the place where Nyx's tendrils wrapped intimately around her waist and shoulders. Questions formed in the air between them, a visual language that Eliza now understood. "You have bonded with this alien being?" Nyx's response was immediate and unapologetic. "She is my chosen. Our consciousness flows together now." The awakened one extended tendrils toward Eliza, seeking permission to connect. Eliza nodded, allowing the gentle touch against her temple. The contact was different from Nyx's, cooler, more analytical, but not unpleasant. "Extraordinary," the being projected, withdrawing. "You carry our essence now. The Council will find this unprecedented." "They'll have to adapt," Eliza said with quiet confidence. "As we all have." One by one, more spheres activated, more of Nyx's people awakening to a world transformed by an alliance their guardian had forged through her willingness to connect rather than control. That night, as the newly awakened gathered in the central chamber to begin rebuilding their society, Eliza and Nyx retreated to their dwelling. The weight of the day, its triumphs and tensions, fell away as they created their own sanctuary of shared consciousness. "They're frightened of what we've become," Eliza murmured as Nyx's tendrils unwound her clothing, glowing with the deep purple that signified desire. "Both our peoples." "Fear precedes understanding," Nyx replied directly into her mind, tendrils sliding across Eliza's skin with practiced intimacy. "We once feared each other. And now we're something neither of us could have imagined," Eliza gasped as tendrils found the luminescent pathways beneath her skin, stimulating pleasure centers that had evolved through their bond. Their union transcended physical intimacy, though that remained a cherished aspect of their connection. As their consciousnesses merged fully, a state they could now achieve at will, they existed temporarily as neither human nor alien, but something gloriously between. In that shared space, they saw the future unfolding, challenges, certainly, but also unprecedented possibilities as two civilizations learned from their example. The path they had forged through surrender rather than struggle would transform both their worlds. And as they slowly returned to their separate bodies, still entwined in tendrils of light, Eliza knew that her decision in that crashed escape pod, to yield rather than resist, had not been weakness but profound wisdom. In surrender, she had found her greatest strength.